Hi everyone, it's Ruchika Nirvan here with you. Welcome back to my channel at Nirvana Healing Minds. So today we are going to talk about psychological versus paranormal, some matter which are related to both of them. And it's up to you guys that what you will believe. And to discuss about the same, we have our guest speaker Navneet Walla, who is a psychologist and a past life regression therapist. So welcome Navneet. Okay. Hi Navneet.
Hi.
How are you
Hi,
today?
Rishika. I'm excellent. All well.
Can you tell something about yourself to other people?
Okay. So I believe that I am somebody who works in the area of the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So basically, I'm a psychologist by profession and also a practicing clinical hypnotherapist. And I'm into past life work and into relationship counseling. The journey continues. I believe there are multiple shades that are associated with mental health.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. So, so Navneet, today we are going to talk about something very interesting, which is
Okay.
psychological versus paranormal, like we have
Right.
discussed before. So,
Absolutely.
what are your views on this? Let me share something today.
So I believe that, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So, let's talk about it.
Mhm.
What are your views on exorcism in India specifically?
Right. I guess exorcism as a topic has been discussed since ages. And I guess across the world, it's a subject matter of interest, research, and also sometimes from a therapeutic perspective, people get into it. And especially in India, we are like considered
Yeah.
to be the land of miracles, healings, therapeutic approaches. I guess almost all therapeutic works actually emerged from this beautiful land called India, and which has been adapted to various parts of the world. And exorcism is also not an exception. Probably many concepts that we know, maybe the Westerners are still trying to decipher.
Very true. Very true. So, Navneet, one thing I always feel, amazed about is that in India, when we, when you see something, when you go for a worship or
Right.
when you actually attend any ritual, you go in a level of a trance, right? That the ambience and the sound and the fragrance, everything around it makes you, feel a little different than what we are actually in real life. So do you think
Absolutely.
that with some people this can go in extreme?
Well, I believe that there is always a hypnotic trance that is created in all these exorcism or probably all this methodology. We all get into some kind of trance like state, like for instance, maybe through smell, fragrance, maybe through sound. There are different ways to put ourselves into certain kind of consciousness, and the moment we try to access these consciousness, we might experience something which is beyond five senses. And that's the purpose that any of these approaches people use, maybe through sound, through voice, through music, through bells. All this creates a certain levels of consciousness or certain levels of vibration, and we are then able to get in touch with certain levels of awareness.
तो क्या हम अपने आप को ही हम अपने आप पर कंट्रोल लूज कर देते हैं और वी जस्ट गो विद द फ्लो? तो
हाँ जी
आपकी
हाँ.
लैंग्वेज में इजी लैंग्वेज में एक्सॉर्सिज्म क्या है? लाइक
अच्छा, तो अगर मैं सिंपल शब्दों में इसको कहूँ तो एग्जॉर्सिज्म जो कहते हैं कि हमारा जो हमारे चारों तरफ जो भी चीजें हैं वो एनर्जी सराउंडेड है. एनर्जी मतलब ऊर्जा. तो जो एनर्जीज हैं वो पॉजिटिव एनर्जी भी हो सकती है, नेगेटिव एनर्जी भी होती है. पॉजिटिव एनर्जी है जो अगर हमारे आसपास अगर हैं और हमसे जुड़ जाती हैं तो हमारे सिस्टम में कभी कोई ब्रेकडाउन नहीं हो सकता. लाइक फॉर इंस्टेंस, अगर नेगेटिव एनर्जी है, अगर नेगेटिव ऊर्जा है या नेगेटिव एनर्जी है, तो वो मुझे कभी इंसाइट नहीं देगी, वो मुझे मिसगाइड करेगी, वो मुझे मेरे सिस्टम में ब्रेक डाउन करेगी। अगर हम साइकेट्री या साइकोलॉजी की भाषा में कहें तो हमें हेलुसिनेट करवाएगी या हमें डेल्यूजन में डालेगी, हमारे माइंड को इस डायरेक्शन में लेके जाएंगी जब हमारी जो सोच है वो नीचे लेवल पर होगी ना, रादर देन हायर लेवल्स। और इस प्रोसेस में क्या होगा कि अगर साइकोलॉजी की भाषा में कहें तो वो व्यक्तित्व, वो पर्सनैलिटी हम पर इतनी हावी हो जाती है कि हमारा जो कोर पर्सनैलिटी, हमारा जो दिलो दिमाग है, उसको भूलकर हम एक दूसरी जिंदगी जीना शुरू कर देते हैं जो हमारा है ही नहीं। और हम अपनी जिंदगी को बेहतर बनाने की जगह वी स्टार्ट डिप्लीटिंग। तो जो नेगेटिव एनर्जी का काम यही होता है कि वी स्टार्ट डिप्लीटिंग, मे बी इन रिलेशनशिप्स, मे बी फाइनेंसेस, maybe any area of our existence where we find extreme struggle. और exorcism एक तरीका है जिससे कि वो जो ऊर्जा है it can be released from that space. Now there are different methodologies and different ways by which people release these dark personalities or negative personalities, and collectively it is called as exorcism.
Right. Okay, right. So thank you, Navneet. So I think we can see one more thing. So this is ancient way of healing, right?
Right.
And how much do you feel that this is ancient way of healing people?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not restricted to India. It's not limited here. It's everywhere.
Correct. True. That's right. So I mean, see, देयर आर एवरी एरा या एक जनरेशन जो होती है वहां पे कुछ ना कुछ प्रैक्टिसेस या कुछ ना कुछ बिलीफ सिस्टम बन जाती है और वो उस जनरेशन के लिए वो सही लगता है। अगर आपने देखा होगा जो पुराने जमाने में अगर हम देखे जाए तो देखते हैं लाइक बिलियंस ऑफ इयर्स बैक, जिससे भी एक इंसान जिससे डरता था उसको वो वर्शिप करता था। लाइक फॉर इंस्टेंस जब बाढ़ आ जाती थी तब वी स्टार्टेड वर्शिपिंग रिवर्स। जब सूखा पड़ जाता है, लाइक एक्सट्रीम एक्सट्रीम, जब फसल खराब हो जाती है बिकॉज ऑफ द एक्सट्रीम स्कॉचिंग सनलाइट, तो वी स्टार्टेड वर्शिपिंग सन एज अ गॉड। सो देयर इज ऑलवेज अ टेंडेंसी विद इन अस कि जिससे भी हम डरते हैं वी स्टार्ट वर्शिपिंग दैट।
Yeah. Right.
So there is a fear, we work in a fear based model and we start depending on that model,
Right.
and that's not.
So because there are a lot of places in India where exorcism happens, but the 5 most known places where exorcism still happens, like, till now also, till now it is the practice is going on. And the most famous thing is Mehndipur Balaji temple, which is in Rajasthan. So like when I was watching the videos and everything, so I found a very you know mixed views in that video. Like it was very hard to discriminate whether the person is schizophrenic or the person is actually under some effect, under control of some spirit. So it's a very confusing thing to establish that yes, this is not the psychological thing or this is the paranormal thing. So what do you think?
See, I believe that we are walking on a very thin line. So when you look at the human mind, it's a very subjective reality. There's nothing which is objective. We try to make it objective as much as possible. और अगर हम साइकोलॉजी की भी बात करते हैं, बहुत ही जाने माने साइकोलॉजिस्ट थे कार्ल यूंग, और उन्होंने कल्चर और सोसाइटी का बहुत ही ही गेव अ लॉट ऑफ एम्फेसिस अबाउट दैट कि कल्चर्स और सोसाइटीज बहुत एक कलेक्टिव अनकॉन्शियस लेवल पर एक प्ले करता है, और जिस वजह से हम अपनी जिंदगी को, अपनी लाइफ को उसके अकॉर्डिंग बना लेते हैं। अगर हम बहुत, जैसे मान लीजिए कि हम बहुत ज्यादा वर्शिप करते हैं या किसी भगवान के ऊपर ज्यादा हमारी आस्था है, विश्वास है, तो वो एक कल्चर का एक डोमिनेंट रोल रहता है, और उस कल्चर से हमारी अच्छाइयां भी डेवलप होती हैं, हमारी बुराइयां भी डेवलप। सो व्हाट वी आर लुकिंग एज बेसिकली these cultural beliefs shapes our existence, the way we see the world, the way we perceive the world, the way we interpret life के जो significant experiences हैं, this culture has a major role to play. So अगर मेहंदीपुर बालाजी की बात करते हैं तो that's one way of looking the world, looking at mental illness, कि there is a divine intervention and there is a problem at a thought or a energy जो है, जो एक lower level पे think कर रही है, जिसको नहीं think करना चाहिए, and there is a divine intervention that is there and that will help the person to see the world from a very different perspective. लेकिन तो एक तरीका है अपने लाइफ एक्सपीरियंसेस को यू नो रिलीज करने के लिए या इमोशनल टॉक्सिसिटी को हटाने के लिए. So I will not say this is not something a wrong method, but I would say let's go in a middle path.
But one thing मुझे एक चीज बहुत ही अलग लगती है कि इस टेम्पल लाइक जो भी ओल्ड स्टोरीज हैं इसको लेकर, जो भी बहुत सारे लोग इसको मानते हैं, और जैसे यहाँ का प्रसाद नहीं खाना है, या फिर जो जिसमें स्पिरिट है उसको बांध के रखना है, और प्रॉपर प्लेस उनको देना है, प्रॉपर हियरिंग उनकी होती है, और ये अभी तक इसी ऑर्डर में चल रहा है. Right, and some people, like one of my friend, he told me like so he was not ready to believe the story that they cannot eat prasad inside. So they took prasad with them, और फिर जब वो रास्ते में थे तो उनकी कार का एक्सीडेंट हुआ. So somebody told them कि जाओ इसको वापस रख कर आओ, और फिर जब वो वापस रख के आए then फिर वो वापस आराम से आ पाए. So that's one way of looking at it, but yeah, that is why people believe it more. Somehow it linked any negatives, they link with your mind, the condition with your mind, and you believe it more.
Correct.
Right. So first I want to show everyone that the top most 5 places where still exorcism happens, and then we will watch a video. Right. So one is this place, and another one is this Hazrat Sayyid Ali Mira Dargah.
Gujarat, right.
It's in Gujarat. Then देवी जी महाराज मंदिर मलाजपुर. So यहाँ पर actually यहाँ पर घोस्ट मतलब इनका मेला होता है. और this is दत्तात्रेय मंदिर गंगापुर, and this is निजामुद्दीन दरगाह, which is in Delhi, and I'm sure बहुत लोगों ने यहाँ पे visit किया होगा. But one thing is like it's all mixed. Of course, religion wise also it's very mixed, but the the closure in both the things, it's same.
Correct. Absolutely.
Pause here. So you can see the population is majorly females, right?
Absolutely.
Hardly there is any male.
True. That's right.
Yeah, and it is going on in a massive group.
Correct. See, I believe that many times women are sometimes going through so much in this patriarchal world and sometimes they find this kind of helplessness, and this helplessness at a very back of the mind affects them mentally, and which comes up in this form of, out of touch with the reality, and these delusions, hallucinations, and so many things.
I think one more thing with the females, कि उन्हें बहुत जगह पे औरतों को बोलने ही नहीं दिया जाता है, उनको अपना जो एक्चुअल एक्सप्रेशन है उसे निकालने ही नहीं दिया जाता है. सो ऐसी जगह पर जहाँ पे ऑलरेडी वन स्टेज इज गोइंग ऑन, तो उनको भी अपनी सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ, लाइक दे कैन स्क्रीम, दे कैन शाउट, दे कैन एक्ट हाउएवर दे वांट टू बी. सो आई थिंक उनको एक तरह की ये फ्रीडम मिल जाती है, और सबसे बड़ी बात, उनको एक अटेंशन भी मिल जाती है इसके बाद, स्पेशली बिकॉज इनिशियली तो नोबडी केयर्स, विलेज में या फिर बाकी जगह पे भी अगर आप देखेंगे, बाकी टाइम उनको शायद इतनी अटेंशन नहीं मिलती, but when they perform or act in a certain manner, immediately they get attention.
Absolutely.
And
true, that's right.
When like जब भी exorcism India में जो होता है, they hit also, they chain, it is painful for people, so to avoid this pain, maybe they feel okay, but after, when the pain effect goes, they want to come back to the same stage, or maybe some things they are encountering, that is why they are going back to the same stage.
Correct. The conditioning is like, for instance, they want to avoid certain things, but that reality comes back to them again.
Right.
And there's an environmentally they get into a trance-like state, and they get into that zone once again.
Right. And here also, can you see a person is playing, an instrument is going on along,
right,
and other people are dancing. Maybe it's also helping them to take this thing out.
Because many times there's a lot of unexpressed emotions and unexpressed sadness and unexpressed anger, and there's so many things that they get buried into that space. And this sometimes becomes a powerful way to vent out, because venting out is not happening into many women, I believe.
Right. And this is the easiest place to take out. But it's not necessarily that it's going to be completely psychological. Maybe there is higher energy, maybe there is higher power which we cannot understand and see. But yeah, this is the one thing, like, yeah, it's definitely, she's expressing so much there. So yeah, the places can be different, but the end part is same. Right, even in Nizamuddin Dargah or other shrines, they perform a different ritual. They have a different setup. But let's see this one.
In an animated negotiation with Raju and his father.
मुक्ति चाहत हुआ कि नहीं? मुक्ति चाहत हुआ ना बाबा के दरबार में, तब बाबा ने होकर सजा दी. हाँ, जब बाबा के दरबार में आगे लगता इंसाफ बाबा करी. क थप्पा में जलवा ये बतावा, क थप्पा में जलवा ये बतावा, क थप्पा में जलवा.
So she is aware of each and everything.
Absolutely.
And this is exhausting. This one.
Her bangle. And for our safety, Raju made a sort of Lakshman Rekha around her to protect us from these escaping spirits.
ये हम लोग इसलिए कर रहे हैं कि ये प्रेत यहाँ से भागे ना.
As Asha worked herself into a trance, the flames grew. And I started to wonder if all this was for the benefit of our camp. But for everyone else, it seemed it was business as usual.
हर्षुब्रह्म के दरबार में,
हर्षुब्रह्म के दरबार में
सत्य बोल रहा है.
सत्य बोल रहा.
हे बाबा,
हे बाबा,
5 थप्पा में जल जा.
थप्पा में जल जा.
5 थप्पा में जल जा.
थप्पा में जल जा.
जन्म जन्म पुण्यों खातिर. 1 2 3 4 5.
So she got a closure. True, true.
Some people.
So one more thing related to, our ancient time is witchcraft and witch hunting in India. So, like it's written here, in ancient time, witchcraft or demonology was a practice sanctioned by Hindu scriptures, according to the book Witchcraft. So, it was also mentioned as a professional in it is a profession in the Rig Veda, an ancient Hindu scripture, and was uh, taught at ancient Indian university.
Right.
So you can imagine the impact. It's very old, and people have really acknowledged it.
Absolutely. See, there is nowhere in the world we cannot hide this fact, because why we try to put this paranormal or a parapsychology, because we don't want to bring into the mainstream. If we bring into the mainstream, there's a fear of knowing something which is beyond five senses. It
Right.
spooks us, it hurts us, or maybe starts questioning our belief systems to a great extent. And this prevents us, this makes us to push this subject into a different way. Like, for instance, world over, people talk about witchcraft. The world over, people talk about witches. But there are also something wrong practices also happens. Like, for instance, many women are burnt alive in the name of witches,
Or
and they
hands.
are harmed. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I want to say there is a ultimate focus and stress on the normalcy. Like you have to follow these things, then you are normal. If you are going above or below this norm, you are insane. You are not fine. Like insane was not the word, but yes, you have some demonic possession, and it is not safe to put you in front of the world and the society. So it's better that you should go away from this world, right?
Right.
This was the mindset before. So, but I want to ask you one thing, which usually happens in our Bollywood movies a lot. So when
Right.
these things happen, they burn a female or they hang a female. So then the spirit goes, not the spirit and the tree or the spirit and this thing, they get associated. So the spirit comes again, and you know, before, so I don't know she was witch or not, but later on, I'm sure they always project that yes, the soul, the energy, it dies unsatisfied, so it's always there around. What do you think? How much do you believe in this? Or it is just psychological people see because they feel guilty?
Well, guilt is a major root cause for many of the problems that, like you beautifully address, that with guilt is something which is there as a part of life. Like, for instance, guilt could be in our lives, in our experiences of life. Guilt could be in relationships, and this guilt gets reinforced in a very different formats. Like, for instance, we want to do something for somebody. Like, for instance, somebody, sometimes it could be a marital relationship, it could be a relation with a child, it could be a relation with the parents. But when we are not able to meet up those objectives or meet up those visions, or we try to do something, or we try to overcompensate, something sometimes, then again also guilt comes up. And I guess guilt is something which reinforces our maladaptive behaviors, or wrong behaviors that needs to be that should not actually come into the in our functional living. And coming from this perspective, that why this sometimes there's a tree association, there is a, people's association, something. I believe that in the movies, when we look at the Bollywood movies, that they try to capture it with a tree, or they try to send it away in a bottle or something like that, or they try to capture in a house and they run away from the place or whatever. If I look at it from a purely psychological perspective, mind works in the form of associations. If a mind has conditioned that there is a spirit which is there, where there is a character which is there in front of me, every time you walk over that situation, the mind will condition and try to create those realities for that person. Now, when a different association is created, like an environmental hypnosis or a trance, like something like that, or maybe the person is shifted to a different place or something like that, then that associations get broken completely. Then the person may not experience or see that spirit. I've seen a lot of cases who are they see some kind of demonic possessions, and from a psychiatric language, they say it's schizophrenia, or maybe any kind of acute psychosis or something like that. But many times they don't need medications. Like, for instance, they change a particular house, they go to a new house, and suddenly that behavior gets changed. But it's like and before that, these people never had this kind of mental illness. But when they reached a certain place, they got this vivid hallucination. So technically, there could be a possibility of energies, negative energies they have picked up. Maybe the other family members might not have picked up. Maybe their aura was a little weak or emotionally they were vulnerable, that they picked up those negative energies or negative thought patterns, which was there, because we are all, in the habit of picking up many things, consciously or unconsciously. So that might have be the story. That becomes a trigger for them. Many
Yeah,
times
that becomes a trigger for them. And once they rationalize it, like now, puja is done, so now we are fine. Or
right,
they get some kind of a closure, I feel.
absolutely. A new association is created.
Yeah.
Thinking that this
So see, one
rituals.
thing I want to highlight here. So like when we were talking about witchcraft, suppose like people, so some female, she might have died on this tree, on some tree. So other people who are already in guilt or who have witnessed all this, they might have developed a fear with this tree, and they might say they might sense something which is actually not there. And maybe the folk tales and everything, they started to emerge ki, if people tree is haunted and you should not go around night, at night time.
Right,
You should not go there near to this place. So a lot of myths.
It's a conditioning. It's again an early conditioning.
Yeah. And also the witch thing,
Absolutely.
Bollywood, they project it so nicely.
Correct.
So the
Especially
recent
Ekridayan and
film,
all. Ekridayan.
yeah, the Stree was basically in Aleba. It was a basically the base was from that there, right?
Correct.
So
and it's continuing.
yeah, and the Ruhi is the recent one, but it's again it is addressing the witch only, the old one who wants to live her life. That is why she wants to get married. So basically, so nothing like I'm being a feminist here, but it's in general that they are taking females as a not satisfied, happy, died in suffering, so they are around.
See, when you look at females' life, there is a lot of general dissatisfaction that they experience in their life. Like, for instance, the early upbringing years, the struggles that they go through, the parental pressures that they go through, maybe the sibling pressures that they experience, or the difficult relationships that they encounter in their early years, or maybe the marriage that happens, irrespective of the fact whether it's arranged marriage or love marriage.
Or maybe
The
the
journeys are very
sacrifices they
tough.
make.
Yeah, the sacrifices. And these sacrifices then gives a breakdown at a later stage if it is not given a right perspective. That what did they do? What are they doing? What is the purpose of their life? If that is not clear, the breakdowns do happen.
Right.
And sometimes it's very uncontrollable at times, and it's very painful looking at these realities.
Right. As like I was talking about the folk tales. So in India we have so many of them. Yeah. So like this Mohini, Tumbar,
Absolutely.
and then Hunochwa. The folk tales are, see, when kids are small, they sometimes parents they create a story so that the child will be a little scared, or they will sleep. They will not do any bad thing when they will not go out. They create some kind of a fear. I'm not saying everyone, but some, yes, they create. And once the fear is created, even with the folk tales or something, suppose somebody's just narrating a just not a real folk tale of any horror thing of any haunted person. So the child, their brain can be conditioned with a lot of fear and the image which the person is narrating, and this can take form of something else in future.
Absolutely, because many times if you look at it, the childhood plays a major role. What are we teaching the child at a very young age? Is the child is like, for instance, some children have a fear that under the bed there is a ghost sitting inside.
Yeah. So now beds are different. Now there is no space under the bed.
Absolutely. So they cannot come up.
Yeah.
I mean, as the generation changes, there's also a lot of this thing. Like, for instance, yeah, you're true. Like, under my bed, the ghost cannot come because my bed, there is no space. So jokes apart, but see, like you mentioned right now, like people have the association that, baal khule nahi rakhne chahiye, all those kind of things, or like people tree has a, the ghost attachment. And now this is like the stories that they've heard in the back of the mind over centuries. And what happens is, when there is an emotional breakdown, these stories get triggered without their awareness, without their conscious awareness. And when that happens, then gradually, at a very subtle level, these delusions or these hallucinations can become real to them.
Right. So I
And
want
one
to
time
ask
only
you
they
one thing
lose them.
here. Some people are born curious, right? So some people are
Correct.
curious to know that what is this? Why I should
Absolutely.
not do this? Why I should not explore these things? So
Correct.
people relate it like, see, um, like I was so curious about old
Right.
forts and palaces, and because
Absolutely.
every tale was very different associated with them, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
I was always curious because I was already under this psychology course, and
Mhm.
it gives you a lot of assessment kind of brain.
Correct.
So so people around me, people are judgmental, of course. So they used
Mhm.
to condition me that, because she is curious about this thing, that is why this is happening with this girl, or she likes it, she likes to do this, she likes to do that, maybe something is not right. So this is what I want to say. When a child is curious, a lot of kids,
Mhm.
like, in our one of the discussion also, I have stated that the kids are nowadays very very curious about the ghost and the ghost games, and people are
Absolutely.
developing the proper application and different ghost games for them, right?
Mhm.
There is Bloody
Correct.
Mary, there is a baby blue baby game, there is
Absolutely.
a lot of games which I hear because I work with kids, right?
Correct.
So they feel excited, they feel curious, they want to explore, and it gives them a different thrill.
Correct.
That is why
True.
they want to explore. In group they talk
Absolutely.
about this a lot. So
True.
this is a kind of exploration only they are doing, right?
Absolutely.
So when this exploration can lead to a personality disorder, you know
Absolutely.
we cannot always say that if a person is curious, they have definitely he or she will go up to this extent that they will face a personality issue. But there is a fine line, right?
True.
You never know when a person will associate their own images and thoughts with something around. Some
Absolutely.
kids, they associate it with dolls,
Right. True.
right? And some kids, they cannot take this trauma of losing their grandmother or grandfather, so they associate
Correct.
it with their room and the things.
Absolutely. True.
And it's completely psychological. Like, people say, don't talk about it, don't talk about the
Mhm.
haunted things, don't talk about the ghost stuff. But I
Correct.
think with
Correct.
kids it's a very very important, because that is how they form their world, and in future they relate it with with one thing
Mhm.
with another.
Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
this is a myth, complete myth, that we should not talk about these things. Definitely we should not teach a child like this is a folk tale and this will happen if you'll go out. Like, you should tell them,
Right.
definitely no, that the true sense of basically the honest thing, like if you'll go out in the night, people can kidnap you, what is that,
Mhm.
rather than
See,
making them
I
feel
believe.
good.
See, I believe that, in a small child, storytelling has a very powerful effect. And you, being a child psychologist, knows better than anyone. So, storytelling has a powerful impact in shaping the child's mind, or nurture that person's mind to a level, or help that person to develop certain skills, or form certain beautiful associations to some positive habits. So, we cannot deny the power of stories, but I believe that stories should convey a proper lesson. But I believe that many times when parents try to convey a story, they highlight the spook part extreme, where they forget to give the lesson
Moral
behind it,
part.
morals behind
Yeah.
it. And I believe that all these characters are within us.
Mhm.
It's up to us to decide which we need to
Which one?
actually
Yeah.
project most of the time.
Right. And it depends on the person also, with whom I
Absolutely.
want to relate the most.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because if we can be a karna at times, we have to be like Karan, we have to be giving at times, we have to, and we have to
definitely.
be loyal friend at times, like Karan. We have to stand like Krishna also,
Right.
sometimes a warrior, sometimes administration, sometimes thinking also. So all these major roles are needed for us. to win the battles of life. But I guess storytelling, again, like I said, the role of psychologist, how you convey the story in the right way, in the right manner.
Right, right. So one thing is very, very hard to decide is whether it's a mental health illness
Right.
or it's something, really
Mhm.
existing there. So
Yeah.
like
So
schizophrenia, the pictures are
mhm,
depicting schizophrenia,
correct.
by then multiple personality disorder
Mhm,
and a hysteria.
correct.
So it's very hard to discriminate whether a person who is suffering is
Mhm,
actually undergoing or can be fine with the medicines. Also, I want to ask you one thing. So why
mhm.
people believe that medicines won't work? In our Indian mindset, this is one very strong thing that you should not take more medicines. It can harm you. Definitely,
Yeah,
everyone has their own reasons, but they say
absolutely.
if मेडिसिन से ठीक नहीं हो रहे बट जब हमने नजर उतारी तो ठीक हो गए. So is this a real strong mental conditioning which gives us a physical well-being? Like if I have done this, so this is happening and I'll be fine after this ritual.
See, I believe when you look at the pharmaceutical industry, there are good side and bad side to it, and there are also mental conditionings also. Like for instance, nobody said that we the medicines actually cure somebody. There's nothing which is there is a no there were no in the literature which says that you prescribe a certain medication and you take the medicine and you actually recover from it. The medicine becomes a way by which the body starts responding. Like for instance, when you given an antidepressants or antipsychotics, the psychotic medications or this prescription of these pills will actually affect the hormones in such a way that your emotions get regulated.
Yeah,
That's
right,
the role of psychiatrist. There's no
right.
other role. Just to control the maladaptive behavior or those hallucinations which are uncontrollable. But after that, the role is of a psychologist only. Because how to
Right.
bring this person back to the society? Because the person is getting alienated because of the maladaptive behavior. The person is getting anger, the person is getting sadness, mix of emotions within seconds. If you look at the bipolar cases,
Yeah,
they sometimes change at a very faster pace.
yeah,
So I believe that the psychologists have a major role to play, just like the psychiatrists. But psychiatric medications are for a certain levels. Like for instance, the person will not be receptive to counseling sessions. The person will not be receptive to psychotherapy sessions. If the person is in an extreme, difficult moods or extreme aggressive behavior, the person will not sit to it. Which is why you need to go to a psychiatrist and go for a pills or medications to it. But after that, like I said, it's not a final treatment. If you go for a depression, major depression, or if you go to for a any kind of schizophrenics also, I believe schizophrenics, if you look at their lifestyle management, is something which is important, because many times these hallucinations never go with them.
yeah,
15 years of medications, nobody gets recovered with schizophrenia. I mean, in my own practice, or I've heard from my friends or colleagues, they never recover. There is a dysfunction that got created, and dysfunction is there. But after this medical management, like for instance, they are sometimes hospitalized, or sometimes even if they are not hospitalized, like for instance, there are people, families who are so attached, they don't want their family member to go to hospital.
yeah,
Technically, they don't want to hospitalize them and send to mental asylum. So what they
right.
do is they take the medicines. But after that, medicines they can sit it from home. They have to just pop the pill, just like BP medicine. They have to just take the medicine. Once they take the medicine, the most important role is of a psychologist. How will they have their lifestyle? Their lifestyle management is important, because they will
Right.
be very pricky with things. They get emotions, very emotional at a faster pace. They'll be not liking the dirt. They will not be liking the
Definitely.
atmosphere. They will
Or
pick
at
up a
times they
fight with
cannot trust their own people around.
absolutely, and that will result into violence. Like for instance, they will have a fight with people around. All these kind of things. So here, how to create a a beautiful interpersonal communication, how
Yeah.
to have a good communication pattern. That's where the psychologists have to come into play.
Yeah. So a person who is like whose family believes that he's definitely undergoing a, you know, under a
Right.
spirit control, under a,
Correct.
you know, there is some other energy with the person. So to explain them that yes, this can be one factor, but there can be another factor which is mental health illness, and you should go
Absolutely.
with the medicines and you should do this. So do you think how what do you think? How often do you hear this thing that medicines will not work? Let
Many
us go
times, many times, like people who are going through this, like we discuss so many places right now that people go to, like Dargah, they go to many of these Balaji, all these kind of temples or Hindu practices that they get into, because they don't get a relief in medicines. That's true, no doubt about it. Why would they? And these are the people who are very highly educated. Like, for instance, I'm talking about those people who have been qualified to a level where we cannot call them to a mental patient. Like, for instance, we're looking at the degrees and qualifications or the kind of families they belong to. It is not always the socio economic reasons which leads to a breakdown. Many times there are various other factors also you have to
right.
look into and take into considerations to it. So so even if they go into that zone, but I believe that we need to have a middle path. We need to have an eclectic approach. So even if we go into the unconventional methodologies of healings, um, we need to take a middle path. We need to integrate several aspects to it. Like, for instance, I believe an eclectic approach is the most safest approach.
Yeah. So like one movie was there, Bhool
Right.
Bhulaiya, where
Bhul
they have
Bhulaiya, right.
combined both the things, right?
Absolutely.
So that the psychiatrist rationalize this patient's mind by
Absolutely.
doing a ritual, right?
Right. True.
So I know everyone cannot do the same, but see,
Absolutely.
I feel that there is some kind of conditioning that works. So suppose if there is a thread in my hand, and
Mhm.
people wear lot of people wear black thread, so that nazar
Right.
nahi lagegi,
Correct.
right? It's a
Absolutely.
one common thing in India.
Correct.
So when they see the black thread, they somehow feel in their own self that yes, nazar nahi lagegi, and it somehow it makes their brain positive कि nahi lagegi,
Correct.
and they feel
True.
more happy. They feel, you know, that kuch nahi hoega. It's
Correct. Correct.
everything is inside us, you know. I feel that if you are feeling that positive faith is there, so positive only you will see.
I
Because I'm
truly agree.
wearing this is happening. This is all conditioning, I feel.
Correct. True.
I love that I'm in this country
Mhm.
where we have so many things, so many temples, so many gods, and
Correct.
so many support systems around us. And
Absolutely.
when you go in the temple, it gives you a positivity. Like I told you in
Correct.
the beginning of the session, like
Absolutely.
a proper ambience turns something different in us, right? A lot of people in the temple, if you will go, like if you'll go Vrindavan, every
Right.
part there you feel that it's so pure, and people they dance there. It's not hysteria which you feel like. It's not
Absolutely.
hysterical, but they enjoy everything there, right? So I want to say that it creates a positive impact on us, right?
Hmm.
And this kind of a closure, like I'm going through something is
Hmm.
very bad in my life, somebody will say
Correct.
okay, you go there and everything will be fine.
Correct.
So every time when you go there, but I think it creates some kind of a positive impact in us because we condition it in a positive manner, and the ambience also make it so positive. The fragrance, the,
Absolutely.
you know, the kind of ritual we have when we do, when we, you know, give something.
Absolutely.
Definitely, we are pouring something on shivling. We are
Absolutely.
putting rose. Everything is having a different kind of effect on us, and the music
Absolutely.
around us, people around us. So it gives a different closure to a person who is actually suffering.
Absolutely. So I believe that the faith is reinstalled, because many times what happens is the person feels rejected many times. The person feels betrayed many times. And somehow there is a sense of trust is reconnected with these kind of rituals or these practices. See, rituals are nothing but deconditioning about the experiences what the person is going through. So when the person is deconditioned and is brought into a new atmosphere, automatically the mind cannot relate to the previous experience, which means there
Yeah.
is a period of time the person is secure or safe in a given point of time. And at that point of time, if there is a positive suggestion is given, like for instance, these mantras and all these kind of things, the atmosphere is giving a positive suggestion into the person's mind. And that is somehow helping the person to come back to think that, no, I don't need to, think about these scary characters or stories or delusions or hallucinations or whatever that person feels, because this person doesn't believe that it's a hallucination. For that person, it's a reality.
Yeah.
Like for instance, the family members are not seeing these characters. They will never.
Yeah.
Nobody will see the character.
Right.
But they will continue to see it because every day is a nightmare for them.
Right.
Like for instance, in a dream, we see a nightmare. For them, or for a schizophrenic, for a psychotic patient, every day there's a constant chatter which is going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes multiple people are talking. Sometimes single person is talking.
Right. But see, being a psychologist and being into
Right.
this mental health field, we can sense that it's a chemical imbalance.
Absolutely.
Right. So for every chemical imbalance, if you want to balance it, there can be definitely some medicines and some kind
Absolutely.
of a counseling can make a person
Right.
fine.
Absolutely.
When we call specifically, see, even in our country, men, they are always have a particular kind of image that they should be strong, they should not cry, they should take
Absolutely.
all the burden, they are the one who should support everyone. So definitely the thing on their shoulder, their responsibility is more. Right nowadays, I know it's a equality thing, but देखा जाए तो पिछले टाइम में
Absolutely.
ऐसा होता था, but still you will see the number of the ratio between the men and a woman, it's more when it comes to females. So whenever maybe if a man is deviating from the normalcy, it is considered fine maybe. But when a female is deviated from that normal line, then it is not acceptable, and maybe they're just labeling it ki, okay, this is not fine, take her to this thing, take her to this person, he or she will make fine, or do some puja. There are many factors for this thing, and every person is different, every family culture is different. It's very hard to put closure on everything, but people should be aware that if for any chemical imbalance, definitely, if you believe in something, you do that. But this awareness is very, very important, that medication and the counseling should be done a lot.
Absolutely. No, that is not, cannot be, we cannot sideline it. Where the medications are given, then there needs a medication. Where the counseling sessions, where the psychotherapy sessions are needed, there its role has to be played, because it's a combination of these two. Like for instance,
right.
it's like two people. It's like, we have a vehicle which is there. There has to be second tire. There's a one tire on the other side. It has to go hand in hand. Like for instance, otherwise the vehicle will not move. So similarly, the psychiatrists have their major role to play, and similarly, psychologists have a major role to play, and both needs to have an equal contribution for the person to become more mentally stable.
To you all to decide, what your heart feels like to believe, but yeah, for us also it's still mixed. Yeah. All right, Navneet. So thank you, Navneet, for your time and for this beautiful discussion on this topic. So do you want to say something?
I guess thank you, Ruchika, for giving this platform and creating this platform, or rather nurturing this platform where the awareness and insights are coming up on the subject of mental health. Also, the alternative approaches of understanding the mindset or the mental health. So we are trying to look deeper into the minds, and probably the journey is looking into what really the mind looks like, the dark side, the light side. And I believe that the light side should win, and the light side is the illumination of knowledge, and probably whoever are listening to us across the world should receive that light.
And I hope someday eclectic approach should come, which will cater towards the needs of the person, where we cannot hurt, we are not hurting our religion also, but we are taking care of the chemical imbalances too. and which will have a greater impact on
Absolutely.
any person who is suffering.
Right.
Yeah. So
Hope
thank you
that
so much.
world comes to us soon. Yeah. Thank you.
I hope so. Yeah. All right.
I hope this is right. Okay.
Okay. So bye bye.